I'm heading south to a shop about an hour and a half from my shop, and it's my machine shop that does all my machine work for the Ferraris. And the reason why I'm going down there today is to get a flywheel clutch and pressure plate balanced. And I'm happy to do it. Charlie's been my machinist for years, and he does a really good job. The only reason why I'm doing this is because I can't seem to find someone locally up in Hudson, New York, or even up towards Albany or anywhere like that that can do a flywheel clutch and pressure plate balance. So I went into my local parts store, and what I do is I always pick the oldest parts store in the county or in the area. Because if you go to one of the modern chains, they only deal with new cars. They don't know the machine shops, they don't know the balancers, they don't know the specialists around. The old machine shops still have those relationships, or at least you hope they do. The old shops, if you go in there and you need a hydraulic fitting, or you need a custom hose manufactured, or you need a flywheel ground, or you need a balance done, they have subcontractors in the area that they've had relationships for 20, 30 years. They says, yeah, this is the guy, or leave it here and we'll get it done, and charge you a surcharge to have it done, which is great. But so the idea is that you have to go to like these old time shops because they're the ones that have the relationships. You go to a new shop, they don't have those relationships, or if they do, they only do newer things. They don't do like the old style stuff, which is what I'm looking for. So I went to my oldest shop in the area and said, I need a flywheel balance. Oh, we haven't done that in a while. Let me call. So they call their guy. Do you do flywheel clutch pressure plate balances? Nope. And then the next guy, nope. Third one, they says, okay, well, we got an old timer that does this stuff, and let me give him a call. Call him. He's like, well, if you want me to do it, you got to provide me with the crank, the rods, the piston, and it's like, whoa. Tell him that that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for an engine balance. I'm just looking for rotating mass. You know, he's thinking about a V8 and he's thinking about building an engine balance. That's not what I was looking for. I'm looking to have, you know, just the flywheel and pressure plate and clutch balance. On Ferraris, everything internally is already balanced. It doesn't need to be balanced to the flywheel. The flywheel is balanced, that's fine, but when you get it ground and then you buy a new flywheel, a new clutch, a new pressure plate and a clutch, you just got to make sure there's no imbalance between those things, the three things in the back of the engine that's connected to the crankshaft, that's not going to throw something out of balance. And it's too risky for me to install all this stuff and then have a vibration in the drive line without checking this stuff, because there are other things in the rotating assembly that can cause vibration. But if you eliminate that setup, then at least if there is a problem later, I had the clutch and pressure plate and flywheel balanced together as a unit, so it shouldn't be that, you hope. So the idea of that is that I'm going to do it now because I have the engine out, I have the flywheel out, and I have all this stuff in my hand. I should get it done. And the reason why I wanted to do it locally was just because I number one, I'd like to keep some of these old time businesses in business. I'd like to keep some guys who are in locally to do it. I don't want to keep driving an hour and a half back down to Connecticut, where I used to work, where we have those guys, and to get it done. But I failed. There's nobody in my area that does it. So Francois said, oh, well, I can do it. Just leave it with me and I'll take it to my local guy to do it. I said, okay. So I drove down there one day and dropped it off with him. And he called me back in a day and he says, my guy's closed up shop. No longer there. It looks like I haven't been there in like a few years, several years, and the building's gone. And he said when he asked around, the guy sold, retired, closed his shop, sold the property, and now there's an apartment building in the place.
So I said, well, that's no good. So just kind of having a conversation with my machinist and saying, what do this is so frustrating. He says, well, I can do it. He said, if you bring everything down to my shop, I'll do it. So, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm getting now I have 2 pressure plates and clutch assemblies that I want to do. So, I was talking to Charlie, and Charlie said, well, yeah, bring it down, pick a time, and we'll do it. And if you want, because he knows that I'm driving, an hour and a half down to his place, he said, bring both of them, and we'll try to do them all while you wait, which I think is unheard of, because usually it's like you got to leave it and the other reason is because sometimes you can put on a machine and it will be perfectly balanced and it doesn't need a lot of weight or any modifications, and it goes great. Other times it could take a long time, and they hate to have you stand around and wait. My feeling is I don't mind waiting because it'll save me the 3-hour round trip twice to drop it off and then pick it up. So he's willing to give it a shot and see if we can get both of them done in a day. So that's what I'm doing right now. But it kind of exposes a larger issue with what I do, which is, every month it's something comes up where I need to get something done, and there's nobody that does it. Like, particular type of welding, a particular type of machining, a particular type of fabrication, a particular type of machine work. All this stuff is just disappearing before our very eyes. And, we keep talking about bringing manufacturing back, but this manufacturing and all this fabrication stuff has been leaking out for the last 20 or 30 years. And, everybody can have their theories as to why. They can claim that it's just it's cheaper to do it overseas. We have an aging population of skilled craftsmen that are just retiring and not passing on the information to the next generation. We have modern technology and modern built things that just are designed to have parts replaced. There's no reason for things to be fixed. They just replace it. It's cheaper. The manufacturing has gotten so cheap now that it's overseas that it's cheaper for it to be replaced than to repair it. But for stuff that just is not replaceable, like old Ferraris, I rely on manufacturing. I rely on fabrication. I rely on machine work that has to refurbish things. And it really becomes frustrating to do my job. And even if you said it costs what it costs and I'm going to pay whatever it pays, because, when I go ask somebody to balance a flywheel or balance something like that, it costs what it costs. I mean, you can't go to a cheaper guy if he's the only guy that does it. My problem is, forget about the cost, because look, I'm driving an hour and a half just to get an hour of work done, possibly, maybe 2 hours. But let's say it's an hour. We'll find out soon how long it takes to balance a flywheel. But I'm driving 3 hours today just to do this. So that costs money. And so I don't know. I mean, sometimes people say to me all the time, Tom, you need to teach the next generation. You need to teach somebody new. And I often say to them, it's like, well, why? Because it gets to the point where it's like the next guy who I teach is just going to be held back from his inability to find suppliers and fabricators and all that other stuff. It's great if you teach the skill, but what good is it if you don't have the support structure around you? So I'm just venting a little bit because it's one of those things where you just don't know what's going to happen. If it's happening now, and this is literally a weekly occurrence of something where I either have to learn how to do myself or drive distances or ship things across the country to get things done where it used to be all done locally. I mean, I have machines that I purchased to just do this stuff, at least gives me the ability to do this stuff in my shop as opposed to sending it out. Would I rather send it out? Absolutely, I'd rather send it out. I'd rather send it out to a guy with decades of experience that knows how to do this stuff. But I've been forced to learn how to fix some of this stuff on my own because these guys are gone. They're retiring. They're selling their shops. There's not enough businesses to support them. Because that's the other problem. It's like, oh, well, then
somebody will come in because it'd be worth their while. Well, a shop that can balance a flywheel and a clutch, and I'm not going to single-handedly support them by sending them, one. I mean, like I said, the last time I had to have one done was probably 2-3 years ago. So my shop is not going to single-handedly support a business that needs to have, that kind of service every single day or every week. So it's really a catch-22. I don't have enough work to support these businesses, but yet I need these businesses to survive. So I don't know what the solution is. But the solution today is to drive down to Charlie's shop and do this balancing and learn and show you what it is that we do or how we do it, how it's done, and we can all learn something. But the real takeaway is what are we going to do? I don't know. So I'm here down at Charlie's shop with my 2 clutch and my pressure plates and flywheels for balancing. Charlie's getting all his stuff together to go through. So let's see how long this takes. This either goes really fast or it can go really slow, so we won't know. But Charlie's said that he could try to do it while I wait, which is very rare. You're very rare to get that chance to do it. So let's see how this goes. We're going to see the process. I still can't believe that I can't find people to do this anymore. You're almost overqualified to do this, Charlie. So basically, we're going to take the clutch out, and it gets balanced just with the flywheel and the pressure plate.
So luckily, this flywheel and pressure plate have pins that locate it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't move around.
Right.
So that probably the most important part is that when you're balancing the stuff, that things fit together and they can be taken apart and put back together exactly the same way.
Right. And then obviously when we put it all together, we put that paint mark or something to make sure it aligns back to the same place it was.
Yeah.
And just one of the reasons why we're doing this is because on the Ferrari engine, everyth's already balanced as far as the crank and internally, because it's a fairly balanced.
Pretty much.
Right.
Usually you'll balance them quite a bit closer, like connecting rods in the crank, than what was done in mass production.
Right. So when we built this engine, the crank was already balanced with all that stuff. So now we're just checking the balance of this flywheel and the clutch assembly. Once that's balanced, then we're going to eliminate some of this possible potential for vibration.
Yeah. After we're all done, someone will be able to go buy a balance machine and know how to do it.
They know what a balance machine is.
Yeah.
Well, I always say that what's good about this kind of stuff when I shoot this is not so much as that everybody's going to run out and do it. At least they know what it's about,
Yeah. So we have to input like where we're going to be correcting, which would be somewhere out here.
Mm-hmm.
6 inches. I'm going to be removing. Then where we're making the correction. And all we're doing is balancing, it's dynamically, but a single plane.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing
Right.
end to end on it.
Right.
So, we just have one plane that, because you call it force balancing. The machine is calibrated to balance at a certain RPM.
Mm-hmm.
So everything always gets spun up on this particular machine, 500.
500,
or,
yep.
Or right around there.
So it's not like you have to spin it up higher to check.
No.
Once you get it balanced to 500.
I've played around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with higher, lower, and you know, 1.2 grams.
Okay.
So that's really close.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, that's kind of usually if we're get down to 1 or 2 grams,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's more than
That's
good enough.
close enough, right?
We can sometimes too, if we try to get too close, which we'll knock this down a little bit more, you know, we'll get a little better. It'll just start hunting around, you know. and
Yeah, because it's
all of a
always,
sudden
yeah.
you know, so what we're going to do, and I do this out of habit, I guess. I always,
Remount it.
I'll spin it up again,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 2 or 3 times
Mm-hmm.
to see. So right here is where it's showing 1.2.
Okay.
So if everything is working correctly with the balancer, we're going to be within a tenth or 2 of that and the same location. So it's exactly 1.2. And if we go back to the angle,
It should be in the same place.
see, so it's
Yeah.
exactly the same. So,
Okay.
you know, you want to make sure that you got good repeatability
Right.
before you start taking weight out. So now to remove, you know, I see all the timing marks.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to really drill around
No.
the timing marks, but I can either drill straight there or back here. And it's going to be such a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you'll see how
Right.
sensitive.
Yeah, because 1.2, it's 1.2 grams out means that you're removing 1.2 grams
At
Of-
6 inches.
at 6
the
inches, right?
Radius that I put in it.
Right.
It's on the Ferraris. I find the flywheels usually are pretty good,
Yeah.
but it's always the pressure plates that are like a mile off.
Mm-hmm.
So. So if you look at what we did there,
Right.
all right, let's see.
Just a little nick.
I think that's like a 3/16 drill bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably only going to take maybe 3/10 out. We'll get below.
Sure.
I think.
So it's easier to take away
Right.
little at a
See,
time.
we're at
Yeah,
0.9
0.9.
already, you know, with
Okay.
that little.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is, it's still repeating exactly the same place. So
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, just take a
And
little bit more.
This is not necessarily making it any better right now. You know, we're going, you know, way too.
Yeah. I mean, you could literally stop right now and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Oh,
even feel it.
I didn't have to start
Right.
on this particular.
Yeah. It's almost like because we're doing a video, we have to get it perfect. But this perfection is a.
There's no such thing
it's
as
a
perfect
right.
balance.
You're chasing exactly. Perfection is one of those things that you could chase forever. But for what reason?
Yeah.
There is a thing of good enough, right? And 1.2 would have been good enough.
Yes. So.
In fact,
we're
we
gonna
could
leave
even
that.
stop at 0.6. 0.6 is half of what we have. It's even better.
Right. So in any case, but I like seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it repeats every time.
Yep.
Same exact location.
Right.
Just tells me that the machine sensors. And
Right. And there's not a wobble or
working
that.
out well. Yeah. But so now we'll put the pressure plate on,
Okay.
and all the bolts look the same.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people have brought
Put
me
different
stuff.
bolts, right?
Yeah, all different bolts, and
Yeah, because the
Yeah,
only thing
yeah.
I did on the other one is I didn't bring the lock washers. So this one I did bring the lock washers, but those aren't, as long as the lock washers are the same.
yeah.
The main thing is just always keep in mind a balance, right? You want,
Well,
if you have different bolts, then you're going to have balance issues.
I had one recently where there was actually like a 4 gram difference in
Really?
the bolts, you know, when you're trying to get below 4 grams in your
Right.
balance.
Right, and the bolts are the furthest away from the center of the flywheel, so it's really going to make a difference. All right, so with the flywheel removed, or rather after the flywheel is balanced, now the pressure plate is on. Charlie had to machine a collar to try to get this throw-out bearing surface to line up. And what did it say? We're out 11.7 grams.
Yep, well, we're under 1 gram with this flywheel.
Right, so now make those index marks so I can actually take it apart and put it back together again. And now we're going to take it. Yep.
Can't miss it.
Yep. So we'll get that together, and then now Charlie's going to remove a little bit more material.
Around 10 grams.
Right, right.
And
No, but
I've had people tell me that
show this a little bit where I have it. Yeah, so you can see is to remove a little bit of material and then add a little bit of material, take some and add that. And that brought us to where we need to be. What were you saying?
I've seen customers have told me 8 grams have made a difference. Like that they can feel whether I believe that or not.
Right.
Yeah, that's, well, the one I did a couple of weeks ago, that was like 24 grams
Oh
out.
boy, that's a lot.
And, you know, that was noticeable.
Yep, yep. Well, as we do this, maybe we'll find out more and more, like what do you feel and what you don't feel, you know? But if we're getting it within a gram, I think we're not going to feel anything.
So this one isn't as close as the other.
5.8.
No timing marks anywhere around here, so.
Yeah, there are. They're just really light.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yep. Where are they? Because I have a mark
saw
here.
the other ones,
So you have timing marks. Those are the time.
Yeah.
No, wait. Yeah, there's the valve timing marks.
Okay, so we're nowhere near it.
Yeah.
And here, so I drill.
Yeah, so you want to drill on top in
I'm
here?
just going to come down.
Okay.
Well, that's what makes it easy with that.
Okay. 1-1's pretty damn close. Well, I got the flywheel and pressure plate balanced, and I want to thank Charlie for helping me out and getting it done. Now it just needs to be put back in the car. But hopefully Charlie will keep doing this, and I'll have somebody to take it to, because once he's done, I don't know what I'm going to do. But that's usually the case with everything these days, trying to find qualified people to do the procedures that we need on these old cars. But every day, just another day that we can get it done. Thanks for watching.